What's the story, everyone? Welcome back to GA Fan TV. I hope you're all keeping wonderfully well. My name is Aaron, and today we're going to be looking at some of the best young players that could make an impact in 2021. This is 10 young footballers that could really make an impact and could potentially make a breakthrough in their senior county team this year, of course. And obviously, a lot of these players would have been thereabouts, of course, in the under-20s, and some would have made one or two league appearances here or there. But this is 10 footballers that could really make an impact for their county in 2021, and these are definitely 10 players that I think you lads should be excited to see, and certainly for me as well. Now obviously there's 10 players on this list that really could have went for 20 or 30. I didn't want the video to go on for about a half an hour or an hour or anything like that, so we're just going to get through 10 on the list. We'll read out some honourable mentions as well, and I'll let you guys decide down in the comments below who you think is the top 5, who you think is the best young player in Gaelic football at the minute. And obviously a lot of the players who made a breakthrough with Mayo last year, and so the likes of Oisín Mullen, Owen McLaughlin, Jimmy Hyland with Kildare, or Oisín Gannon with Donegal, players who made the breakthrough last year are not included on this list. This is players who didn't make that breakthrough last year, players who were still in the under-20 squad, players who only made maybe 1 or 2 league appearances. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Okay, so we'll kick things off with Lee Gannon of Dublin, and if you're to ask me as a Dublin fan, what footballer am I most excited to see coming through Dublin at the moment, it is Lee Gannon. Now, if you had asked me that maybe 6-7 weeks ago, I might have said Kieran Archer, maybe longer than 6-7 weeks. The time just goes so quickly at the moment. It still feels like we're in 2020, to be honest. But Lee Gannon, without doubt for me, he's a Whitehall man, which is where I'm from. So without doubt, a lot of respect for Lee Gannon and what he's doing at the moment. And he, without doubt, could be a serious talent for this Dublin team. And one of the reasons why I'm probably more excited for him rather than Kieran Archer is he already has the build of a senior footballer. Well, Kieran Archer does as well, but Lee Gannon just has that fluidity, he has that pace, he has that skill. He's a modern day wing back in many ways, and we've seen a lot of these come true for Dublin in the past couple of years, and he's one of them that really likes to get forward, really likes to support the attack, but can also show off his defensive capabilities as well. And look, listen, it's always going to be hard to break through that Dublin team, but I do think that Dessie Farrell will have to bring through 1 or 2 young players in this Dublin side in 2021 in particular, because there's a core group of players that are all starting to hit their 30s. We're starting to see more players opt out. We're starting to see more players retire. And he needs to keep those young players coming through, and he needs to bring them through while we're on top, because it was something that Jim Gavin done so well, and it's something that Dessie Farrell will need to do, because if he doesn't, you could have a situation where too many players leave at one time, and all of a sudden you have a bunch of young players in your team that haven't won an All-Ireland, and that's what no one wants, essentially. So I could expect a player like Lee Gannon to certainly make the breakthrough. He set up a lot of the scores in both the Galway and Tyrone game in the Under-20 Championship. He was named in the top Under-20 players of the year in 2020. So without doubt, he's a talent. Seen a couple of his games at Whitehall as well. Very, very talented footballer, and without doubt a player to watch in 2021. By the way, if I also ever refer to 2021 as 2020, it's because I literally see the years the same thing. So it sounds weird still saying 2021, so if I mix them up at some stage along the way, just bear with me. I have a memory of a fish. Anyway, we'll move on and we'll look at Paul O'Shea of Kerry. Now, without doubt, Paul O'Shea is a player that certainly is on the lips of many Kerry fans at the moment. And I mean, Kerry have a serious young talent forward line at the moment coming through. I mean, you have David Clifford, who came through a couple of years ago, Tony Brosnan, you've got Killian Spillane, you've got experience of James O'Donoghue and Tommy Walsh, Paul Walsh of course as well, who I spoke about in a previous video I made a few years ago, or a few months ago I should say. And Paul O'Shea is another one of that crop. He's another one of those young players coming through that really could catch an eye for Kerry in 2021. He's been knocking on the door at underage level for quite some time. He was very unlucky not to make it into the 2018 minor team of the year in my opinion. His performance against Cork in the under-20 Munster final was really the one that caught my eye in my opinion. He was absolutely exceptional, dominated the game. He is a forward, but he likes to drop into that half-forward line. Great at supporting the play, can spot a pass, just very, very talented really, really talented. And without doubt, COVID probably hampered his progression in many ways, coming back into that game versus Galway. So without doubt, the whole break has definitely hampered his progression. And obviously Kerry have such a talented forward line, it's going to be very hard to break through. But look, listen, you never know. There could be an opportunity there. there could be the potential to make, you know, a couple of appearances, especially maybe in the league. He is David Clifford's cousin as well, so he probably has that rapport with David already. And look, listen, you know, if there's something in the family, if it's genetics or whatever, then we could be looking at a seriously talented footballer in the next couple of years. And next up is Aaron Mulligan of Monaghan, and obviously Monaghan have produced one or two top class forwards down the years, obviously with the likes of Conor McManus, for example. Conor McCarthy in the past couple of years coming through as well. He's probably not yet hit his potential, but Aaron Mulligan could be another one of those players, in my opinion. He could be another one of those players to really make an impact, come through this Monaghan side and potentially, you know, really stake his claim in this team. You know, he was exceptional in 2018 for the Monaghan Miners. You know, they narrowly lost to Kerry, of course, in that year's semi-final. He was exceptional that day. He scored 1-4 in a pre-season game, actually, in 2020 against Derry, that was. So he's been knocking on the door, and obviously with the whole COVID situation, I mean, it's probably across the board for every player in the GAA, in all honesty. You know, his progression was halted massively, unfortunately. He never really, you know, he made a couple of league appearances here or there, you know, came off the bench against the Dubs, and obviously with Monaghan getting knocked out in the first round of the championship by Cavan, we never really got to see the best of him, never really got to see him at all. You're looking at 2021, you know, he could certainly make a difference for Monaghan. He could certainly come through. They had a very poor year in the championship in 2020, they had a very poor year in 2019 as well. So I think without doubt Banty McEnany will look at the league and he'll look at the opportunity for players like Aaron Mulligan to come in. They do have a lot of players that are aging in that team, so he will need to bring players through, and without doubt Aaron Mulligan for me is a player that we could see starting quite regularly for Monaghan in 2021. And next we've got two Galway players, and without doubt obviously Galway are going to have a couple of players on this list. I mean, they won the under 2020 championship, so you know there's no real surprises that they're on the list, and Jacqueline gets on the list without doubt. You know, was named the 2020 under 20 footballer of the year. Brilliant, well-rounded cornerback, marked Kieran Archer out of the game, and we'll obviously speak about Kieran Archer in a couple of minutes, but Jacqueline, exceptional footballer, just really aggressive, really good at tackling, gets those blocks in, gets those tackles in, very versatile, well-rounded cornerback, and you know, he's a part of that, you know, good crop of young Galway defenders that's coming through at the moment. Obviously Paul Kelly appeared in the senior Connacht final for Galway, of course. And look, listen, there's a lot of changes happening in Galway at the moment in terms of players retiring and players getting older and different things. There's still that good young crop of players coming through, but there's definitely the potential for a player like Jacqueline to come into the team. And I think one of the things that Patrick Joyce will be looking at going into this year is really improving that defence, because they have the forwards, in my opinion. It's just that defence that they need to improve, and if Jacqueline comes into the team and can do a solid job alongside Paul Kelly, you could be looking at, you know, some of the best full back line in Gaelic football for many years to come. So a lot of potential with Jacqueline, and I look excited to see him in 2021. And then of course, you know, the other player from Galway on this list, of course, is a player operating in attack, and that is Tomoko Han. And look, listen, there's a number of Galway players, obviously, you know, there's Matthew Cooley, Matthew Tierney, but Tomoko Han has really spearheaded that attack in the past couple of years. Scored 1-6 in the final, maybe a little bit unlucky not to get man of the match. It was Jacqueline who got man of the match on that day. Very explosive, direct forward, likes running off the shoulder, gets in behind, caused Dublin a lot of problems in that game. And what really impressed me actually about Tomoko Han, to be perfectly honest, was how sharp he looked. He looked so fit, so sharp, so ready for the occasion, looked a yard above everyone else on the pitch, and obviously he was putting in the time, he was putting in the training, putting in those extra yards, and he looked exceptional in that final, and he could really be a player without doubt. And look, listen, we were talking there about Galway having a very talented forward line with the likes of Damien Comer and Shane Walsh and whatnot, but there is the potential for, you know, a couple of young Galway forwards to break into that team in 2021. Ian Burke has opted out, Gary Sice and Adrian Varley have both retired, so there really is the potential there to make an impact, maybe coming off the bench. So Tomoko Han, without doubt, a player to watch in 2021. And next we go down south and we'll have a look at Blake Murphy of Cork. I mean, he's part of a very young crop of very talented Cork players at the moment coming through. Could have looked at a number of players on this list, and there may be another one on this list as well. Blake Murphy, definitely one of the top players coming through at the minute. I mean, he scored 1-2 in the under-20 final back in 2019 against the Dubs, and he was named in the under-20 top 20 players of the season. The only kind of disappointing part, and it's nothing on Blake Murphy's part, is obviously, again, the COVID situation. We haven't seen him play in almost a year, at least that inter-county level anyway. So that's a little bit disappointing, and hopefully, you know, we can get around to that pretty quickly. But I would expect him to be at least in the panel in 2021. Obviously, Paul Kerrigan has retired, so there is the option there. Look, listen, there are a lot of very young Cork players coming through. Cathal O'Mahony, for example, Mark Cronin, which we'll get onto in a minute. A lot of very good players coming through at the minute, but I would expect Blake Murphy to make the crop in 2021 and have one or two appearances that could really catch the eye. Of course, we couldn't get through this list without speaking about a Mayo footballer, and that is David McBride of Mayo. He is one of the players I think will come through this Mayo team in 2021, and obviously, you know, James Horan is going to bring through more young talents in 2021. He did it last year. You know, the likes of Mark Moore and the likes of Oisin Mullen both featured in the under-20 Connacht final last year, and then both made a handful of appearances in the senior setup as well. So I would expect James Horan to be looking at that under-20 team and looking at some of the players on that team and looking to bring them through. And David McBride, for me, is definitely one of them. You know, very good defender, can play at centre back and a full back. Was part of Balladarine's brilliant 2019 county championship run when they got to the final. And obviously, you know, with Mayo, Keith Higgins, Chris Barra has retired, Colin Ball's getting older. A lot of those players are getting older. It's going to be more about the youth and more about the young players coming through. And there's a couple of Mayo players we could look at, Paul Toohey, maybe Luke Tunney as well. But David McBride, for me, without doubt, you know, from looking at what some of other Mayo fans are saying as well, he looks like a player that could really stake his claim in that team in 2021. Without doubt, you know, could be a part of another good crop of young Mayo players to come through in 2021. And now we have Ross McQuillen of Armagh, and I'm going to be honest, Ross McQuillen probably a player that I know the least about on this list. One of the reasons why I've put him up here is obviously I did put out a poll on Instagram a couple of days ago, and a lot of people were saying Ross McQuillen is a very highly talented young Armagh player coming through the ranks at the moment. And one of the reasons why we probably haven't heard too much about him in the past year or two is because he has actually been playing AFL with Essendon, I believe is the club. I might have said that club name wrong. It was also the same club as Conor McKenna, so if that's anything to go by, you know, he could be very good indeed. But looking through, you know, what he has done, I suppose, you know, in 2018, very highly impressive. I've seen some of the highlights in his game versus Roscommon. He looked very, very bright. And, you know, he is a very talented player who operates mostly in and around the half-forward line, but he can play up in the full-forward line as well. So I'm excited to see how he gets on. Look, listen, Armagh produced a couple of good players in the past couple of years. You know, Rian O'Neill, Conor Turbitt's coming through. Oisin O'Neill looks quite bright as well. So, yeah, look, listen, Armagh are probably one or two solid forwards away, in my opinion, of really challenging the likes of Donegal and Tyrone and Ulster this year. They will still need to sort their defence as well, but certainly more attacking options can definitely help them, and Ross McQuillen I'm looking at as one of those options. And now we have Kieran Archer, and I don't think there can be any surprises that Kieran Archer is on this list. You know, I did make a video I think a couple of months ago, and I was looking at some of the top young players coming through that could make an impact in 2020. Kieran Archer was on that list, and obviously still had another year to go at under 20 level, but I'm pretty sure now he'll be in that senior setup. I'd be very surprised if he wasn't, at least on the bench, at least in the panel. Look, listen, Dublin have some seriously talented forwards. Obviously, you know, you have that forward line of Paddy Small, Dean Rock, Con O'Callaghan. You've Cormac Costello who can come off the bench. Colin Baskel's in there as well. But obviously, Paul Mannion opted out, and obviously Paddy Andrews retired. So there is a slot there, in my opinion, and I think it would be foolish to not include Kieran Archer, in my opinion. Look, listen, you do want players to have game time. You do want players to play. And obviously not having pre-season tournaments is definitely going to affect that, and that might maybe hinder Dessie Farrell's thinking. The fact that the league is way shorter and it's going to be maybe a shorter season, does he maybe not give Kieran Archer his opportunity in 2021? It's hard to know. But look, listen, obviously Archer has been at the forefront of Dublin's attack at under 20 level the past couple of years. You know, scored 7 against Laois, 6 against Tyrone, 1-5 against Cork in the 2019 under 20 final, and I think he scored a hat-trick in one of those Leinster games as well. Like, he is an exceptional talent. He's tall, he's strong, physical, very good technically as well, and he's a free kick taker, which, you know, could be very beneficial to Dublin moving forward when Dean Rock gets older. So Kieran Archer, definitely a player to look at. The only maybe worry would be he's not the quickest, he's not full of pace. He does have that strength so he can shrug off challenges, but he does like to cut you know, on that inside foot quite a lot, and that maybe could be a worry. Jacqueline done a phenomenal job on him in that under-20 final, so maybe that's the only worry with Kieran Archer. Is he all hype? We don't really know at this point. He does look like a serious talent. For myself as a Dublin fan, I'm definitely excited, but only time will tell. Would definitely expect him to make some sort of impact at senior level in 2021. And last but not least, we've Mark Cronin of Cork, and obviously I mentioned him a little bit earlier when I was talking about Blake Murphy, and a lot of the similar stuff, you know, speaking about Blake Murphy, applies to Mark Cronin as well. Another highly talented young Cork forward coming through the ranks at the moment, and I think Mark Cronin probably made more of an impact in 2020 just in terms of his scoring and also what he done at club level with Nemo Rangers as well. Mark Cronin scored 1-3 in the final versus Dublin in 2019, so you know, he has that under his belt. And of course, you know, exceptional club campaign for Nemo Rangers in 2020. Got a couple of goals, a lot of points, worked very well with Luke Connolly as well. Obviously we didn't get to see Nemo Rangers in that club championship final, but without doubt Mark Cronin, definitely very talented player. He looks like he has the build of an inter-county player, at a senior inter-county player, which could give him the jump over Blake Murphy and some of the other young Cork lads coming through at the minute. He's tall, he's quick, and yeah, most likely of the young forwards, in my opinion, to make an impact. And like what I was saying with Paul Kerrigan retiring, there is that potential there, and there is that option there for a young player like Mark Cronin to make an impact. So yeah, look, listen, that is the 10 players that I've got on this list. We'll run through some honourable mentions here. So we've Paul Toohey, obviously, of Mayo, like I was saying before, Conor O'Donnell of Donegal, Matthew Tierney of Galway, Paul Donaghy of Tyrone, definitely a player worth mentioning. Paul Donaghy had an exceptional club campaign for Dungannon of Tyrone, so he could definitely make an impact. You've got Ross McGarry, Mark Lavin and Lorcan O'Dell, all of Dublin, Luke Tunney of Mayo, Frank Irwin of Mayo, Colm O'Brien of Clare, Daniel O'Mahony, Ronan Coffey of Laois as well. Some of those players I haven't seen, but there's a lot of players that got mentioned in the poll I put up, so definitely, and Ronan Coffey definitely got a lot of mentions, so he's a player of Laois, so that'll be interesting to see how he gets on in 2021. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up here. Do leave a like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more podcasts, interviews, lots of channels. I'm getting tired, fucking hell. Lots of videos and different stuff going on. Yeah, you know, we're getting a video out every 2 or 3 days, and even if the championship does get suspended, delayed, or deleted, completed entirely, whatever, we're still going to keep going. Fuck it, we might as well just keep going at this point, you know, might as well. Grand. Anyway, I'm going to go to bed, so I'll see you. Leave a like, subscribe, and see you in the next one.